Some people rock and some people roll. Some will make you giggle right down to your soul. She'll talk to the world and introduce them to you. And look at me now, I'm on Barbara and you. You gotta take a step inside the shoes of another. Get to know your neighbor, get to know one another. She'll talk to the world and introduce them to you. And look at me now, I'm on Barbara and you.
Good evening and welcome to our program. As is my custom, before I introduce my first guest, I will tell you who's going to be joining me at 7:30. From Fitchburg State University, we have Dr. Lisa Moisen and Joanne Hughes, and they are going to talk about the adult learning in the Fitchburg area, better known as Alpha, and they have lots of interesting information for us. But first, I want to introduce you to my first guest, Sherry Keating. Welcome, Sherry.
Thank you, Barbara. So nice to be here.
Nice to see you again. Did we decide it was January when you were here
January,
before?
yes.
And just since then, you've got your own budding career as a TV host, I hear.
I do have my own TV show called Talk Me Healthy.
And
It's
that's
so much fun.
Out of the Sterling
Sterling
TV,
Lancaster Community TV, yeah.
Yeah, well, congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that. And I was so impressed when I first met you about a little over, just around a year ago. And this, let me tell you folks, this lady has a list of credentials that is so long, it would take up the whole show for me to tell you about them. But when I met her, she was all excited about kind of a new career that you had just started, and you were a woman with a mission.
Absolutely.
And you have now accomplished that mission and continue to run forward with it. Now, it just happens to be, and we really didn't even plan it this way, but it is Diabetes Awareness Month.
It's National Diabetes Month, yes, absolutely.
And that's part of your mission. You founded Diabetes Care Consulting.
Right.
Okay. Where do you want to start? Do you want to tell us about what you founded, or you want to tell us about your background first? Because I'll get it all out of you.
Well, I'm a registered nurse, a graduate of actually Fitchburg State, and I've been a nurse for about 34 years, and I'm also a certified diabetes educator, and I'm also trained through the Center of Disease Control as a diabetes prevention program life coach. I also am a toxic chemical consultant for Pure Haven Essentials, and I'm the founder of my company, Diabetes Care Consulting.
And why is diabetes near and dear to your heart?
My
I should
career,
say helping people with diabetes.
Well, my career has been in heart disease and diabetes. I actually started the diabetes education program at Health Alliance, and I also started a cardiac rehab program in Athol and managed the cardiac rehab program at Health Alliance. So that's been my career in nursing. And when I found out that pre-diabetes was something that people didn't know about, and we have an epidemic. We have 84 million people that have pre-diabetes, and the sad thing about that, Barbara, is that 90% have no idea. And the statistics show that if we don't have major changes, 1 in 3 will have type 2 diabetes in their lifetime.
That's frightening.
Very.
I could be sitting here and have it and not know it.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I'm going to ask you a very simple question. Why?
Well, because sometimes it actually takes 10 to 20 years to develop diabetes. And because our body is actually an amazing machine. So diabetes is caused by what we call insulin resistance. And what that term means is that our pancreas is the organ that's responsible for making insulin. And what happens is we make insulin, but then we don't utilize it properly at the level. So what happens is you eat a meal and you create sugar from the foods that you eat, and then the pancreas secretes insulin, and the insulin is kind of like, picture it as the key to open the cell door, and the sugar floats in the cell and is used appropriately. When you are insulin resistant, you create insulin or you make insulin, but when you get to the cell, it's like the door doesn't open and the sugar doesn't go into the cell. And so the sugar floats around in our bodies and actually attacks our blood vessels. So it attacks the blood vessels behind the eye, the kidneys, nerves. And so diabetes is actually the #1 reason for adult onset blindness, a lower limb amputation, and kidney disease. And so we need to prevent diabetes. So I actually started my company when I learned that prediabetes was something that a lot of people had no idea about, and I wanted to increase awareness, and I became a life coach to teach the proven lifestyle changes that you can start today, and it's not as hard as you think.
Are we talking strictly diet?
No, we're talking about diet and exercise. And that really is the key to everything, because people with diabetes actually die prematurely, and it's usually from heart disease and stroke. So we need to control our diabetes ABCs, which means blood sugar, blood pressure, and cholesterol. Diabetes shares risk factors with heart disease. So it's people as you age, elevated blood pressure, being overweight, being inactive, having a family history, mother, father, sister, brother of diabetes, certain ethnic groups, people that have diabetes in pregnancy or a baby weighing over 9 pounds. So there's a lot of risk factors, over 45. So people need to take a screening test, which is a questionnaire to see if they're at risk. Then you can actually go to the website called doihaveprediabetes.org, and you can answer the questions online. And if you score 5 or higher, then you should go to your doctor and be tested for prediabetes.
Give that again.
Okay.
I'm trying to get it down myself.
Okay, doihaveprediabetes.org. And it's a website you can go to, and it takes literally 1 minute. It's a 7 questions. You give yourself a score. They ask a question. It tells you 1 point, 2 points, and when you add up your points, if you score 5 or higher, it's very likely that you have prediabetes. And then you need to take the next step, which would be to go to your doctor and have either an A1C test or a fasting blood sugar. So the A1C test is actually a non-fasting test, and it's actually looking backwards to see how much excess sugar that you have in your bloodstream that is attached to red blood cells over the previous 3 months. And if you score 5.7 to 6.4%, you have prediabetes. Over 6.5 is diabetes.
So sugar in and of itself isn't the bad thing necessarily, because, I mean, some of it goes where it's supposed to go and serves a purpose. But diabetics, you say that door is closed and the sugar doesn't get where it's supposed to be.
So the insulin resistance is the fact that you're making insulin, but your body's not using it properly, so you're not able to get that sugar into the cell where it's supposed to go. So the sugar has to go through the bloodstream, and it just kind of accumulates and starts destroying parts of the body. And that's where the complications of diabetes come in. And so first of all, prevention. Key to diabetes is not getting diabetes through screening and testing and making those lifestyle changes. And diet and exercise. So the diabetes prevention program actually showed that if you lose 5 to 7% of your body weight through healthy eating, and healthy eating is lowering your saturated fat, not eating trans fats or processed food, and exercising 5 days a week for 30 minutes, you can reduce your risk by 58 to 71%.
5 days a week, 30 minutes, okay.
Yeah, and then eating low fat and no trans fats, and just eating a balanced meal. So you're eating whole grains, you're eating fruits, you're eating vegetables, you're eating low fat dairy, you're eating lean protein. And if you do that and lose 5 to 7% of your body weight, you can reduce your risk significantly. So people think it's like this big deal, but the science shows that really it's that simple.
Now, I'm going to play the devil's advocate here, because I know people that are diabetic and haven't had heart problems, and I know people have had heart problems who are not diabetic. But you're saying they're very closely related.
Absolutely, they're related. Diabetics actually have a 50% higher risk of dying from heart disease and stroke, and prematurely. Absolutely.
And one thing you cannot control is family history.
Nope, you can't. And there's family history risk factors for both heart disease and diabetes. Absolutely, you can't. You can't change your age, your ethnicity, your gender. So you have to work on those risk factors that actually you can work on. So that's smoking, controlling your blood pressure, lowering your cholesterol, getting exercise, eating a balanced, healthy diet. You know, those are the kinds of things that, and watching your weight, of course, those are the things that you can do today and reduce your risk significantly.
And we all know people who smoke and find it almost impossible to quit.
It's very hard.
And how do you bring your blood pressure down?
For blood pressure control, it's weight loss, It is watching your intake of salt. So, you know, it's interesting because it's not the salt shaker that's the culprit. It's the processed food, and that's really the key to so many chronic diseases. I just gave a class today on healthy eating, and what I talked to them about was the fact that there is 117 million people that have preventable diet-related chronic diseases. So if we just ate healthier and went back to the basics, eating more of a plant-based diet, we would prevent chronic disease significantly.
Now, Sherry, you've been in the medical industry a long time.
I have.
Have you always been a healthy eater?
That's a good question. I have for many, many years now. Many, many years now. Do I cheat? Of course. Because you know what? I believe no one can do something 100%. It's really hard to be a vegan or a vegetarian, but what my rule of thumb is, and I learned this from a dietitian, is 80-20. So 80% of the time you're really sticking to what you need to do for your health. And on those occasions like Christmas and Thanksgiving and, you know, special occasions like weddings and all those things, you can splurge. But instead of having half the pecan pie, you have a little wedge of pecan pie. So it's really about portion control, moderation. So yes, I have been eating healthy for a long time, and I think a lot of it has to do with being able to beat cancer myself, because you know I'm a cancer survivor, and I was healthy prior to getting cancer, and I really think that that made a big difference in the outcome. Having cancer and going through those treatments is very difficult on the body. So luckily I was healthy before. So I try to tell my patients that if you can keep your body healthy, if you ever get a call that you have a serious disease, that you can really get through what you need to get through to get healthy.
And I just want to remind our viewers, if you happen to tune in late, we're speaking with Sherry Keating, who's the founder of Diabetes Care Consulting and an expert on a whole bunch of stuff.
Well, not an expert, but
well, I love listening to you, and a lot of what I hear you saying are what we learn in cardiac rehab, especially about the trans fats and all of that stuff we're nuts and the salt, the sugar, all that. What are the first symptoms people should look for other than taking this test? Are you pre-diabetic? What are some symptoms people should look for?
A lot of times people won't have symptoms, and that's the issue. The body will compensate to a point. Well, what will happen? This is what happens. I was explaining how the body makes the insulin but doesn't use it effectively. So what happens is the pancreas will just overproduce insulin, trying to overcome the resistance to get that sugar to go in the cell where it's supposed to go. And when it does that, it actually burns out the cells that make insulin. But this process takes many, many years to happen. So people don't get symptoms sometimes until they already have complications of diabetes. And it's the complication that brings them to the hospital, because the diabetes, they didn't have symptoms. So when your pancreas says, I can't compensate anymore, and you've burned out a lot of the cells that make the insulin, that's when the symptoms occur. And that can be a 10 or 20-year process. But you've already had years of elevated blood sugar, but not high enough to be diagnosed with diabetes, or not high enough to be diagnosed with prediabetes. But the damage is occurring all of these years. So a lot of times people will go to the hospital for a heart attack, or they'll go to the eye doctor and they'll have bleeding in the back of their eye, or they'll have symptoms of neuropathy, which is numbness and tingling. But the symptoms of elevated blood sugar are you have to urinate a lot, you're hungry, you're thirsty, you are losing weight even though you're hungry and eating a lot, you may have an infection that doesn't heal, you're tired. Those are the classic symptoms of elevated blood sugar, and you definitely need to go and have that checked.
Now, where diabetes and heart problems are closely related,
yes.
Is there any rule of thumb which usually appears first?
I don't know the answer to that question, to be honest with you. A lot of times heart disease is related to belly fat. So when people carry their weight, you know, when they talk about apple versus pear shape. So pear shape have their weight in the hips and lower, and apple shape kind of in the middle. You would rather be a pear than an apple shape, because when you carry your weight in the middle, it actually causes your liver to become fatty, which increases the insulin resistance, which increases your risk of diabetes, and also it causes inflammation throughout your body, and that inflammation increases your risk of heart disease and stroke. So the first thing you want to do is get that belly to be less. So yeah.
That's it. I find that's my problem area. My
That's-
stomach's the hardest thing.
I think for
Of course,
women,
some people that if it's their hips, they'll say that's the hardest thing. But
Yes, I agree. When I gain weight, it's always in the belly. Absolutely. It is a hard place to lose weight.
now, your business is just a little over a year old.
Yes.
Obviously, it's very successful. Who are your clients?
So my clients are varied. So my clients, community organizations, employee wellness, healthcare professionals. I actually have 15 classes now that I offer. They're anywhere from pre-diabetes to type 2 diabetes management. I also talk about toxic chemicals and the role in chronic disease. I talk about healthy eating. I offer CPR classes. I offer CEU programs, which are continuing education programs for nurses and social workers. So I actually just got hired by Mass Nurses Association, and I'm going to be a breakout speaker for their clinical conference in May.
Well,
So I'm very
congratulations.
excited about
That's
that.
exciting.
So really my client is anyone who wants to improve their health. So senior centers I've spoken at private schools and employee health. I would love to get into the schools because I really believe that good health starts in youth. And I've actually done health fairs with students at Sizer. And so, you know, really anywhere from youth all the way to seniors. I'm actually just partnered with someone to do brain health and diabetes.
Wow.
Because diabetes actually increases your risk of Alzheimer's and dementia by over 50%. And now there's this new buzz term called type 3 diabetes. And it's actually insulin resistance of the brain, and it actually causes Alzheimer's. So diabetes and Alzheimer's disease now is a big issue.
What about juvenile diabetes?
That is an autoimmune disease, and that's when you have a deficiency. So insulin resistance and deficiency. Resistance is you're still making insulin, but you're not using it appropriately. Deficiency is you no longer make insulin. And that is what we used to call juvenile diabetes, but now it's called type 1 diabetes. And then type 2, it used to be the older adult diabetes, but now our kids in teenage years are getting type 2 diabetes because of obesity in our country.
Well, I think some people think that children can outgrow a juvenile diabetes.
No,
Once you have it, you have it.
absolutely, because you're not making insulin.
So that's interesting that you don't work directly with clients. You do more public awareness and public speaking.
I actually have my own clients, yes. So
Oh, you
if
do?
someone wanted to work with me, I do have clients that I work with one-on-one. Because I'm not a nurse practitioner, I can't bill insurance, so they self-pay. But I do have people that want to either prevent diabetes, or they've just been diagnosed with pre-diabetes, or they've been diagnosed with diabetes and they're having trouble managing their blood sugars, or they may not have either and they just want to be healthy and have a health coach. I do that as well.
Can you give me a little, for example, of a client without naming names, or a case that made you feel really good that you made a difference in somebody's life?
Well, it's interesting because I actually did a class, and it was a pre-diabetes class, and somebody in the class did not know they had pre-diabetes. So we did the screening, and I taught them the proven lifestyle changes, and I explained to them that if they scored 5 or more on the test, to go get tested at the doctor for a blood test, and they did, and they found out they had pre-diabetes. So they were so grateful. They emailed me to tell me that they took my advice, got tested, they have pre-diabetes, and they actually already know now from my class what they can do to make those lifestyle changes. I've also worked with people who have had pre-diabetes, and we've been able to help them to make lifestyle changes, to lose weight and get their numbers down. So,
as a matter of fact, I think in my schedule I wrote down that our topic tonight was the life-changing power of your why.
yes.
What does that mean?
Wow. I actually I actually was a speaker at a women's empowerment conference, and I actually presented the secret to living a long and healthy life, and I believe it's your why. And what that means to me personally is when I had cancer, it was a very difficult time in my life. And I went through a lot of dark times during that time. And there were days that it was really hard to get out of bed. And I think living with a chronic disease, there are so many struggles with chronic disease that I see. I also work as a certified diabetes educator at the hospital per diem still, and I see patients struggle and they want to take a diabetes vacation because it's really a hard disease to manage. And it involves so many things. So what I try to teach them, and it's kind of like my signature in all my classes, is that you need to find a motivation in your life for you, and that's your why, that helps you stay on track to achieve your goals, whether it's a health goal, a personal goal, a business goal, and it's something to stay in focus that you can always turn to help motivate you to achieve the goals that you want. And for me, when I had cancer and the days that I didn't want to get up, I had a granddaughter who was a year old, and I had to keep her in focus to get up every day and just to keep moving forward. And she's 10 now.
Wow.
So I've been in remission for 9 years.
Wow.
And so I decided when I presented this and I saw the effect that it had on people, that I needed to add that to my services, because there are many people that struggle with a lot of things, not just chronic disease, but just life in general, and addiction, and all of these things. And if we can help people to determine what their why is, I believe that they can change their story. Everybody has a story, everybody has a why, but if you use your why, you can change your story and live a long, healthier, happier life.
And depression's another problem that
It really
enters
is.
in, and a disease can cause the
Absolutely.
depression.
Absolutely.
It's a vicious cycle.
I went through that when I had my cancer. It was a very difficult time, and I did go through depression, but I'm on the other side, so I'm hoping to give people hope through their why.
Going back to the children, do we perhaps not train our children when they're very young how to eat right? I mean, I'm thinking of Halloween and all that candy. And you want to give a child a treat, you hand them a chocolate bar or something. What's wrong with this picture?
I know, and sugar's a huge problem. Sugar actually is related to that. They are talking about sugar being related to that type 3 diabetes and the diabetes of the brain and the Alzheimer's connection. So sugar really is a huge problem. So, you know, it's funny, they have this plate called Choose My Plate, and I use it as a tool to help people to put a healthy plate together so they have a healthy meal. And they actually have little kids ones. And it's great. It shows them what a fruit is, a vegetable, a protein, a carb, and then, you know, dairy. And so when I have my grandkids come over, the first thing they want to do is go to my office and get my rubber food that I use for food models and put me together a meal for me.
Oh, you should have brought your rubber food tonight.
I should have. It's in my car. You want me to go get it? Because I used it today at the senior center. But you know what? Sugar is a huge problem for all of us. All of us. Sugar, that added sugar. So people get confused with natural and added sugar. Natural sugar is found in dairy products and fruits. And that is healthy for us to a point, but it's the added sugar that we put in our food and, you know, that we add that is the culprit for a lot of problems.
And I think that's true of sugar and salt. And also, but people think if I don't use table salt, if I don't add sugar to my cereal, that we're avoiding it, but it's still there in the processed
It's still there
foods.
in the food if you look at a food label. But you know what? The new food labels are coming out, and some of them are already out, but they're mandated. I think it was July of next year. They may have moved that, but they're going to have a big, bold, how much added sugar is actually in a product. So the rule of thumb by the American Heart Association is 1 teaspoon. So it's 1 teaspoon is 4 grams of sugar, okay? So they're saying women should have no more than 6 teaspoons of sugar a day, and that's 24 grams. So if you're looking at your food label, and it says added sugar, and it says it will give you an amount of grams. So for a woman, it's 24 grams a day, and for a man, it's 36. So 6 teaspoons for a woman and 9 for a man. And that seems like a lot. But if you look at it and it converts to grams, it really isn't that much. And you could actually, if you drink 1 soda that's 12 ounces, you'll get 69 grams of sugar. That for a woman is 3 days of sugar, and for a man, 2 days. So
I gave up soda so many years ago, I don't even
It's a
know what it
huge
tastes like
culprit.
anymore. Well, if I do have soda, it's ginger ale, which is at least not caffeinated, but very rarely. However, I think one of the things that keeps me healthy on a day-to-day basis is I start every day with my cup of decaf tea with a tablespoon of honey and lemon juice. But in my cardiac rehab, they told me the honey's as bad as the sugar.
do you know there's like 50 names for sugar? and honey is one of them. But if you look on a food label,
50. Fructose.
Oh, there's a ton of different names. And you know what's interesting is people look for the word sugar, but sugar has so many other names, and you could have 5 different names of sugar on a food label and not know that that's actually sugar. So I would recommend people go to Google and Google the names for sugar, and you'll be shocked. And then look at your
I always thought
products.
honey was good for us.
Well, everything in moderation. So as long as you're not exceeding what the recommendation is, you know, that's what you really have to think about is portion control. And it's, you know, people like, let's take pasta, for instance. What do we go to an Italian restaurant. How much of on our plate is pasta, right? Did you know pasta is really a side dish? It's not a meal, it's a side dish, and you want to put some lean protein with it and some veggies with it. So pasta is not really supposed to be a meal. It's supposed to be a side dish. Like 1/3 of a cup is actually a portion of pasta.
That's teeny tiny.
That's like this big. So that's what I mean. I think that we've lost the portion control in our country. We're supersizing everything. And that's really causing a lot of problems with obesity. And I think that's another point is people don't understand it's not just what we eat, but what we drink. Like if you go to Starbucks and get one of those fancy drinks, I'm not picking on Starbucks, but if you go to any one of those type of coffee shops, if you get a fancy drink, you're gonna get a lot of extra calories, fat, and sugar.
How important is it to eat, or should we eat 3 meals a day? Is it okay to snack once in a while? Is it important to have a pretty much of a regular eating routine?
It really is, and you know what? Actually, 3 meals and 3 snacks is great. Our body, and I always talk about
I like that one. I like that one,
I know,
Sherry.
I love to eat too, actually. But it raises our metabolism and keeps it going. So I always I learned this from a dietitian. It's a furnace analogy. So think about this. You're in the woods and you're in a wood cabin. You're in a cabin and all you have for a source of heat is a wood stove. So in the morning, you're cold, it's 20 below zero. What are you gonna do the first thing to get warm? You're gonna
Put wood on the fire.
Right, and then what are you gonna do every few hours?
Stoke it and put some more wood on.
Guess what? Our furnace in our body is our metabolism. We need to do the same thing.
But again, you go back to what you said, portion control.
And balanced eating, making sure we have our fruits and our vegetables and our lean protein and our whole grains and our low-fat dairy. So we want to eat within an hour of waking up, our balanced breakfast. Then we have a little snack in between breakfast and lunch. That's stoking that fire. Then we have our balanced lunch, then our little snack, our balanced dinner, and then a little snack later on.
But I've noticed some of these foods and snacks that are passed off as diet foods are really higher in calories than 3 ordinary cookies.
Because think about it, they have to make it taste good. So they got to add stuff to make it taste good. So they're adding fat, they're adding salt, they're adding all these things. So people think diet is better, but not necessarily.
So snacks to you, I'm guessing, are a piece of fruit.
Not necessarily. Peanut butter and whole grain crackers, hummus, cottage cheese and fruit, a low-fat cheese stick and whole grain crackers. There's a lot of different kinds of snacks. A nut mix with some dried fruit and some nuts. So it's just being, you know, thinking about My Plate is such a great tool for people. It's My Plate, and it's a 9-inch plate where you divide in half, and one side is fruits and vegetables. The other side you divide into quarters. So you have your lean protein, your whole grains, and your low-fat dairy. That is such a great tool for people to use to really learn how to balance their eating.
We have 30 seconds. What do you want people to know that I haven't given you a chance to say
Oh my
yet?
goodness. Determine your why and use that to motivate you. And I would love to offer services to anyone who wants to be healthy. Absolutely call me. And remember to live your best life every day starting today.
And you said you have a webinar coming up.
Many diabetes and healthy eating and toxic chemical webinars on Eventbrite. Absolutely, and I can give you the website to put on your show.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you
And,
so much.
Oh, thank you. It's great to see you again, and
Great
keep
to
up the
see you
good
too.
work because,
Thank you so much.
like I say, you were a woman with a mission, and you're doing it, and that is so inspiring for people.
Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate the opportunity to come and chat with you again.
Oh,
Thank
my
you.
pleasure.
And happy holidays to you.
Thank you. Merry Christmas to you as
Yes,
well.
thank you.
And don't go away because I will be right back with my next guests.
Hello and welcome to FATV, Fitchburg Access Television. Each week we take pride in providing some of the best public access television programs in New England. From FATV live sporting events city meetings, and school functions, to weekly shows such as Barbara and You, Inside and Discussing Fitchburg, Sports Weekly, Weekly Wellness, and Our City. Our dedicated staff of industry professionals and hard-working volunteers is here each week working behind the scenes, making it all happen. Besides on air, our programming is also shown live online, where you can see our shows in beautiful high definition. You can also search through our archive of past shows and watch anytime at your leisure. But did you know you can also be part of the action? Become a member of FATV, and you gain access to all the equipment, studio space, and classes that FATV has to offer. You can create your own show, volunteer for exciting live events in our studio, or all around the city in our high-quality mobile broadcast truck. The possibilities are endless. For a small fee, you can become an individual member. Or for a little more, you and a group of friends can become part of a rising trend in the future of television. From sports shows to news shows, civic events, and talk shows. You can be in the driver's seat by directing and even starring in your own production. Also, students are free. FATV staff can assist you by getting your new show up and running with professional industry standard equipment, TV studio time, and private editing suites. All you need are friends to help out, and before you know it, you will be on the air. So if you have a great idea for a TV show and want to share it with the world, stop by 175 Kimball Street, Fitchburg for a free tour of our facility. You can also contact us at 978-343-0834 or email us at info@fatv.org. Fitchburg Access Television, working together for a stronger community.
And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be talking about adult learning in the Fitchburg area, better known as ALPHA, and programs by Fitchburg State University. And I always introduce my guests left to right. And on the left there, we have Joanne Hughes, who is a very familiar face around FATV. And I'm getting a kick out of you sitting there saying, oh, everything's new. You've only been gone a couple of years, Joanne.
I know, everything is new.
Yes, lots of good improvements
wonderful.
here.
Yes.
It definitely is. And also we have Dr. Lisa Moisen. And Lisa, nice to see you
Thank
again.
you.
And I'm going to have you begin by if somebody has never heard of ALPHA, and I told them what it is, but you can expand on that.
Absolutely. I love talking about ALPHA. As you said, it stands for Adult Learning in the Fitchburg area. It's a program that has been around here in the Fitchburg area for probably around 12,
We're getting on 13 or 14
years
something
now.
like that, yeah.
It's a program basically for older adults who are still interested, as many are, in learning and coming back to the university to be able to participate in a variety of different kinds of courses. Lots of different kinds of courses, and I can talk a little bit about what our enrollment looks like and how that's changed over the years. We have free lectures that people can attend. We have wonderful trips that they can go on, and we have all sorts of kind of specialty programming. When the program first started many years ago, it really came out of the community. Community members came together who were older and said, we're not done learning.
Yeah.
And so they approached the university. Our president at that time was President Bob Antonucci. They approached him and he said, absolutely, sounds like a wonderful idea. And the collaboration was born out of that. The first semester it started, we only had a tiny little handful of courses, maybe 3 courses. And this past fall semester, we offered 40 courses.
When I looked at your brochure, I could not believe.
So it has grown quite a bit. We have a fall semester and a spring semester, 40 courses each. So we're probably doing 80 plus courses in a year now. And we pull from about 13 to 14 different surrounding communities. So we have people coming from as far away as Pepperell and Groton, southern New Hampshire who are coming down, Sterling, Clinton, and hearing about our program and coming up Our enrollment this past fall was in probably about 750 for our enrollment, and we probably bring between 300 to 400 older adults onto campus each semester. So we've grown quite a bit.
You know, part of the reason why it really gets started, because there have always been continuing learning classes like at Monty Tech and the high schools and things. But a lot of people get to a point where they really don't want to be out at night. I mean, especially this time of year. So the beauty of this program is that people are taking classes either in mid to late morning or right early afternoon, or I think our last class goes 2:30 to 4.
Yep.
And so it's daytime, first of all. Second of all, many of the classes now are at McKay School.
Yep.
And there's plenty of parking there. It's easy to get to. If you don't want to drive into that area, you can park down on John Fitch Highway near the Civic Center and take the shuttle. And also, we have such a breadth of offerings.
Right. And I think I first heard about this many years ago with our mutual friend Bob McDermott, who's
Yes.
still very
He's
involved.
still on the
and
board.
who's,
Yeah.
and who's worked here at FATV or volunteered here at FATV over the years. So Bob, hello, it's nice to see you again.
And it is one of the most special things about Alpha is that it really is a collaboration between the community, between folks, older adults who want to take these courses and the university. Those folks are sitting right next to us as we are designing our curriculum, as we're developing courses, picking out trips. And so Joanne, who sits on our board and takes the courses,
And teaches some of them as well.
I don't. No,
Oh, I thought
Lisa
you
has.
taught.
No,
but we
Lisa
should
has taught,
have
but,
her. That's a great idea.
No, I'm enjoying being on the other side. But you know, it started out with Fitchburg State professors teaching abbreviated courses. They're 5-week sessions, 2 5-week sessions each semester. But then, you know, other people came forward, or I suppose on the curriculum committee, some people would say, well, I know somebody who can do teach aerobics or aerobic swimming, or, you know, just different things. And so now we teach, there are music classes. You want to learn how to play a harmonica? We've got a class. You want to learn how to play the ukulele? I've done it. 5 weeks, I can play the ukulele.
Oh, that's great.
You know, or we did singing. So there are, and then there's all the art, the painting, different mediums. So it's not the same class every single session. You might do acrylics one session. You might do watercolors another session.
Well, I'm going to challenge people because I think we've all said, oh, I wish I had, or I've always wanted to. Perfect. If you've always wanted to do something, check their offerings.
Check it out.
We keep talking it's for older adults. Is there an age limit?
Actually, we you know, typically it is older adults, folks who've retired, maybe on the verge of retiring, and maybe aren't working as many hours. But to be honest, we don't have a hard, fast age limit. I know that we had a grandparent one time bring their grandchild to one of the art courses. It doesn't typically happen, and I know that we've occasionally had some folks who were a little bit younger, but for whatever reason weren't working during the day and could take the courses.
I remember taking, Paul Loria offered History of Folk Music, and it was a crowded class. There were a lot of people who were my age or older, but then there was a fellow who looked like he was about 30 years old, and I don't know how we found out about it, but there he was every single week. So, you know, there was never like, oh, you can't be here because you're too young. No.
I didn't know that about Paul. He'll be here at our Christmas show in 2 weeks.
Oh, Paul
And
teaches.
he teaches. He's done our Hootenanny sing-along course. He's done our harmonica course. So he's done a lot of great.
He's the one who taught
Now,
me how to play
what
the
is,
ukulele.
okay, so there's no age requirement, high or low age requirement. What are how do people enroll? What is there a cost for this?
There is, and typically As Joanne was saying, the courses run in 5-session or 5-week segments in the fall and the spring. One course, so one 5-week course, you come 5 times, is only $30. And we do actually also sprinkle throughout that several free offerings. So an example of that would be in the spring, I'll be teaching a course that is focused on Fitchburg State University's Community Read, where the entire Fitchburg community reads the same book. And it's called The Girls of Atomic City. That'll be a free course for anybody who'd like to take it. We also, Joanne was mentioning that we offer many of our courses down at the McKay Campus School physically, but we also offer courses at the Leominster Public Library, and those are always free. And so we do try to make sure that there are offerings that folks can dive in at whatever comfort level they have to pay.
Yeah, and there are, and speaking of not just at McKay, we have a very popular cooking course, very, very popular, and it's taught at Fitchburg High School because they've got a kitchen set up there, and it's you have to really jump in and get into that class if you want to get it. It fills up. We have
It's very popular.
2 sections, and it fills up very quickly.
What else I'm hearing is an awful lot of cooperation in the community. When you say you do this at the Fitchburg High School, you do this at the Leominster Library.
There have been classes at the Fitchburg Senior Center.
Yes, Wachusett Meadow Wildlife Sanctuary in Princeton.
That's
They've been
become
very
an
gracious
absolute,
to us.
a definite every Monday. There's a class there.
And we can't forget the Fitchburg Art Museum. They have been
Right.
a wonderful partner with us, not only in letting us use the studio there, but in also allowing us to develop courses where we use the pieces of art that they have there. In the spring, we're going to be doing a textiles course and a photography course, and we're going to be using pieces of art that they actually have there. So the Fitchburg Art Museum has been a great partner to us as well.
But I love the enthusiasm that you both have. And Lisa, this is your baby, more or less. And when you're talking about when all that it encompasses, and you head up this whole program.
It's a piece of the work that I do at the university. It's not everything that I do there.
I don't know how you have time to do anything else.
But I have to say, we have so many volunteers that help me. As I said, this really is a community-based, community-run organization. So we have a board that's all volunteer. We have subcommittees that help us to come up with all these great ideas, find all of our great instructors. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've been on a couple of boards, which I've enjoyed very much, but I never even had heard the term working board until I got onto this board. And it truly is a working board. Alpha runs because Fitchburg State is very, very good to us, but we have, about 20 people who meet once a month, and we go through all of the important details that we have to deal with. Each one of those 20 members is on a committee of one sort or another, and we're always looking for more volunteers. So, when you've got a class and you see somebody who's really into it and asking a lot of questions and all of that, you talk to them afterwards and say, would you be interested in doing a little more, or would you like to get on the curriculum committee or something like that? So,
And Joanne, I know you have always been a very busy person, and you've always been involved in a lot of community organizations. Why are you so dedicated to Alpha?
Well, first and foremost, because I've had so much fun with Alpha. The courses that I've taken.
Well, you play the ukulele now.
I play the ukulele, but I've had history courses, and I've had English courses, and the music, and the Wachusett Meadow out in Princeton. I've just done so many things with Alpha that it behooves me to try to make sure that Alpha continues, because I want to continue to take classes every year with Alpha. It's so affordable. It's so, it would be very, very, I can't imagine somebody going through that brochure and not finding something in the fall and the spring that they say, oh, I definitely have to take that class.
Now, this is a brochure from this fall.
Yeah.
Is the spring brochure out now?
It'll almost be out soon. We're so close. The schedule is done. We're working on sort of the final touches on it to get it out.
And where will people be able to get it?
We do a very large mass mailing out to folks, and then we have a great team of volunteers. As I said, we keep talking about
Bob
volunteers that Bob McDermott heads up. A great team of volunteers that also does where they drop them off at key locations, senior centers, libraries, different places in the community, so folks can just walk right in and grab it.
And as Lisa said, we draw from at least 13 communities in the area. That's where Bob and his volunteers bring brochures. So if you're in Lancaster, you're in Groton, or you're in Sterling, they'll be at your senior center or your library or both, or other places even. I think there's a barber shop someplace that
We drop them
Bob-
off at little restaurants and coffee shops. And,
right, so-
but it's also rather easy too if you can't get to one of those locations, and if it doesn't land in your mailbox, you can just go to the Fitchburg State University website. In the search engine, just put in Alpha, ALFA, and it'll come right up, and you can take a look at it at your leisure.
You can see all the courses.
You can see every course. You can register online, which is brand new. We
Yes.
just started that in the fall. You can still register by paper if that's more convenient for you. And you can get put on our mailing list easily, and we can send everything out to you. So it's a pretty exciting program.
There was a time when a lot of seniors were desperately trying to get into computer classes and learn about all this new technology.
Yep.
Has that evened off a little bit? Because I think we're all a little more wise, technically wise
I
than we
think
used
probably
to be.
you're right. I think it has, because we had a good 2/3, if not greater than 2/3. This was our first time doing the online, and at least 2/3 of the people registered online. Just, it was
Wonderful.
done, it was like in 3 days, right?
Yes,
Something
it
like
was.
that?
It was. We were nervous anytime
no
you launch
idea.
something new like that, and we were pleasantly surprised. Our alphas really, latched on to registering online. And again, we also have the option of still the paper registration for those who want to. And we also held tutorials in our computer lab at Fitchburg State. So if you didn't quite feel comfortable with it, you could come down and we'd walk you right through it. And it was great. What's wonderful about Alpha too is that it's matured so much over these many years, and it's no longer a pilot program at the university. We've really embraced it. Our full-time faculty have really embraced it. They develop courses specifically for Alpha. We're doing a dystopian literature course this spring. This fall, we're doing the Women of World War II. I mean, so not only do we have cooking courses and art courses and recreation courses, but we have some really amazing academic courses that really, you can, are just so amazing that our full-time faculty develop specifically for Alpha.
I've taken quite a few of the more academic courses. They've been great. And all of those professors that I've had a chance to get to know in these classes, first of all, they love teaching us, because we're there because we want to be there.
It's very different. It's very different.
But also, they don't have to give us any tests. They don't have to assign us any papers. We just come to hear them, and they love it when we have things to say, and discussions get started. And I've heard them say that they tell other professors, have you taught an Alpha course yet? You're going to love it. You should do it. The other thing is that some of the courses that were this year that had never been done before, drones.
Yes.
And now you think drones, no, that's young people's technology. All of these young people that are running the station now, that's their thing. Oh no, that was an extremely popular class.
Really?
Extremely popular.
And it was our chief information officer at the university who specializes in this, has his license in being a drone operator, approached me and said, I'd love to do a course for Alpha. Now, he could have said, I'd love to do a course for undergraduate students or for this other population, but he said, no, he said, I want to teach Alphas, older adults, mature adults, about this technology. And by the end of the course, they were out at Elliott Field at Fitchburg State University flying their drones. He taught them how to edit all of the video footage that they took. And they had a wonderful time out there. So
I'm glad you brought that up, because it's not what you would expect.
No, not at all. Well, my husband's been taking a class on extinction and whether or not that's the direction that the human race is going in. Not what I would have wanted to take, because it just, but he comes home every Tuesday, and he's just got full of information about, and I think that's taught by a retired Fitchburg State professor,
Yeah,
I
Bob
think.
Champlin.
Yep, yep. And that's another thing, that there have been professors who started teaching alpha classes while they were still also doing their regular workload, and have since retired, but they stay
They wanna
on
come back.
as instructors, and they're fabulous.
And
yeah.
if you're not quite ready for the full 5-session course, or maybe you don't want to be heavily into academics, you just want to dip your toe in, we have free one-time lecture series that are amazing. We have a committee of volunteers that put those together, and we just started, this idea came out of our board members actually wanted to do a Bring a Friend program. So for someone who has never taken an alpha course before, we piloted this past fall semester. We picked some key courses, and you for free could just bring a friend. And I know I taught a TED Talk course this past semester, and I had 3 to 4 new faces. A friend brought them along, kind of like a Tupperware party, right? Bring a friend, right? Get a free bowl, and it was just great. We got to meet new people, and they got to get exposed to alpha and have fun, and that's what it's all about.
It's the best marketing or advertising you could possibly have. They come to a free class.
Well,
and
yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And I think it helps because, you know, when people who have been not taken a class in anything for so many years, they might feel a little intimidated by this whole idea about going to Fitchburg State and all of that. And it's a professor who's teaching, and it's a whatever the course is. To be able to just go and come and visit and see what the class is like, and realize that there's nothing to be concerned about. There's nothing to be worried about.
I want to make sure we clarify this. The 5-week course is 1 day a week for 5 weeks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, because people might think it's 5 days a week for 5 weeks. 1 day a week
day a
for
week.
5 weeks.
Yeah.
And you said the spring catalog will be coming out soon, but tell us some of the things that you think. I know you can't tell me all the courses. Tell me the ones you think people are going to be attracted to and should probably sign up early for. Cooking, we know.
We definitely we know the cooking class. We've started a brand new biking class, a bike group that's been getting together and doing all the wonderful rail trails that are in our area, which has been really exciting. And that's going to be a late spring course that we'll be doing. We've developed a storytelling course, so people can come and learn the art of storytelling. We're definitely going to be doing the community read, which is the Girls of Atomic City, and so that's going to be another course that we're going to be offering. And
You know, I was just going to say, I think it's also important to realize that every brochure is slightly different from the
Yes.
one before and the one that's going to come afterwards. There are some things that we always offer every session because they are so popular. But then there are other ones that we want to get, you know, somebody who comes forward and has a great idea for a class. It's like, let's give this a try. Let's see what we can do. Like the drones. I mean, who knew? And yet, I'm sure that'll be in the brochure again sometime.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you pay attention to feedback both from the students and the professors.
Yeah.
Yes, we
absolutely.
do. All of the students at the end of each course fill out an evaluation and then give us suggestions, and those go to our
Things that
curriculum
they would
committee. And we have lots of great ideas to kind of go through and kind of sort of develop courses. We're doing a great course in the spring with a brand new professor at Fitchburg State University on inequality, which I think is going to be really exciting. In the past, we've done some great courses on gender studies. We're doing actually a deep course. Our department chair for education, Dr. Nancy Murray, is going to do an autism spectrum disorder course. So I think we're going to have, it's going to be a great slate of offerings for folks. And then, as I was saying before, Barbara, I think that Alpha, the program itself, has matured quite a bit. And so we developed sort of an offshoot of the Alpha program called Bridges Together. And our seniors, our older adults, actually now work with the third graders at the McKay Campus School. and they go in once a week and they share with one another about their heritage, about their culture, about their traditions, what school was like, what school's like now, what school was like many years ago. And we are in our third year of doing that program. And so we pull those volunteers from our alphas. And so it's a great marriage of being able to work with all of the students on campus, from the youngest students to the oldest students.
And you've gotten a lot of good feedback, both from the teachers and the volunteer
Yes.
adults, but also you've been hearing from other schools that have heard about it and said, how can we do something like that? So I mean, it really is a wonderful, wonderful program.
And there's an element of storytelling in there too.
No,
Yes.
there absolutely is.
Yeah.
And on a sort of a larger scale, Governor Charlie Baker actually just came out this spring with an executive order where he said that he wanted to investigate making the Commonwealth of Massachusetts more elder-friendly. And so he developed a task force that folks across the Commonwealth are sitting on. They're looking at many aspects of the lives of older adults, but one of the pieces of that is education. And I think that the Alpha program and the work that Fitchburg State University is doing with our volunteers is an exemplary program that highlights the ways that our state universities and colleges can really be inviting the entire community into learning.
There's no better way to keep people young.
Yes.
Yeah.
Keep them learning, keep their mind
Yep.
active, have them have something to look forward to, which I want to make sure we mention your trips. You also take some trips. And we've only got a
do.
few, well, we have 4 minutes left.
Have you been on any of the trips,
I
Jen?
have.
You
I
can-
have. I haven't been in a while, but they take, they do get filled up rather quickly. But I can remember going on one of the coldest days ever in early January, and we went to the Boston Public Library, and we had a fabulous tour of that. In fact, I think. Yeah, we went in and we broke into two groups and had two different docents give us a tour of the library and behind the scenes in the library. And then, you break for lunch and you're on your own. So we're right in downtown, easy to find a place to eat. And then we met back over at Copley Square at the church. The
Trinity Church.
Thank you, the Trinity Church. Got a fabulous tour of that. That was so much fun. Another time going to the BSO, also behind the scenes, but then behind the stage and all of that, but also listening to a practice session of, it was I don't remember now, I think it was a Mahler, but it was excellent. It was so much fun.
Yeah,
And
that sounds great.
everybody I know who's been on all kinds of trips. They went to DeCordova this spring, didn't
This
they?
January, we're headed to the Museum of Fine Arts, and then in late spring, we're headed to Mystic Seaport. I believe they're going to be
that
heading
should
to that.
both be wonderful. So anyway, folks, we gave you a lot of information, and I thank you both. Keep up
Thank
the
you.
good work. Like I said, it's a great way to keep the older people young and fresh. And thank you for your dedication and what you're doing, and
Thank
for sharing
Thank
with
you.
us
Thank
tonight.
you.
Thanks for having us
Take an
on.
alpha class with
Yeah.
us, Barbara.
Well, I'm
You'll
going
love
to
it,
find the
Barbara.
time for that.
You are.
And also, I want to thank you for watching. And we know we're in the Christmas season when we start our Christmas music here. And next week, we're going to have the International Veterans Chorus perform. They used to be part of our regular Christmas program, but there are so many of them. We were giving them their whole hour. And Fran Cooley is their director. She's taken over for Donna Allard. They'll be with us next week. And then the following week is our annual Barbara and You Christmas musical. And the Paul Lurie and the Sons of Blarney, I think they're
yes.
calling their group,
Yeah.
and we have the Jazz Depot and a lot of soloists. We have a lot of good music, and it's one of my favorite shows that we do all year long, and I also show off my family. So I will be here. So please join me next week for the International Veterans Chorus. And this is Barbara Foster saying good night, and God bless you.